Hello, my friends and family. How low can you go? How high can you be? Today, I'm going to talk to you a little bit about animism and deism versus AI, Borg, Singularity. Whose side will you be on? We are one. The new cage platitude taken from the timeless ancients. Teaching has always been an obvious truth. We're all sharing this here thing we call Earth. In 3D and in 4 and 5 and 6D. Yet our essences have been rendered souls trapped in individual meat suits. The vast majority seeming to never be able to get out. They got to go back to work with all or most of our memories and proofs of past expansion erased between lives. Where you're all alone with your essence. When your essence leaves its flesh suit, bed and breakfast, this beautiful or horrific experience you call your life if you're not aware. The founding fathers of the USA, many have been Freemasons and millionaires, but, my feeling is that they were not Illuminati tyrants, even if they hatched our nation the same exact year that notorious club supposedly began. And perhaps evidence shows they had far more respect for the common folks than the false royalty they rebelled against and escaped, they thought. But, you could find sermons that Jefferson and Franklin made warning, and probably all the founding fathers made warning to not let this false lord come back in. And sure, the sick pathologies of aristocracy, like including maybe some of the darker aspects of Freemasonry, were embedded or creeped in, like representative democracy. Like, what is that? This represents 500 votes for the state or whatever. The displacement of the humans by bureaucracy, the old Helite view that a few ordained teachers or in the government or, enlightened gurus can rightfully rule over others. But they made USA a constitutional republic. What does that mean? Well, the idea that if you're born on this soil that the natives call Turtle Island, that you have inalienable rights. But you might have to defend those with firearms like the only Native American, indigenous, or First Nations people did that kept their original sacred lands. But they made USA a constitutional republic, and it took a while for democracy to fully fall into democracy or mob rule, which is what socialism often seems to be able to be devolved or steered into, with more and more extensive mind control operations and falsifications like the subversive intention. Like, why did they have to create the FED in secret on Jekyll Island with the gold train car at the end of the Amtrak? It kind of made it obvious. Just like human free will, the freedoms were reduced to multiple choice questions. To choose the lesser of evils. Like, if you vote for the demon rat, or the Republican, you vote for the lesser of two evils. Or if you vote for your party, you're just playing the game that they want you to play. So we went from founders in alignment with life to a plutocracy that is dead, that runs on death, on forcing death, on energy harvesting of Lush, forcing death and worshiping it. They worship death. But the founding fathers were what was called deists, which they believe the divine, the respectful divine, maybe they knew it was called Christ Sophia, is in everyone. And then was left alone for us, the humans, to rule over our own sovereignty, our own flesh suit. So now, this codification into a beautiful idea that they could codify nature, the original experiment, into law became choose your slave master. Was this our founding fathers' intent? Why did they create the Second Amendment? Why is this channel still so heavily hidden by the algorithm after all of my extensive work, yet still allowed to exist? Am I, for far more similar to a normal machine beast, falsified, self-appointed hero than I want to admit, doing a lot of work to just survive and not die, and pretending like I'm here to rescue and not excavate hardly any efficacy? Huh. Why would I work this hard to not excavate any efficacy, as the online controllers don't want these truths shared? Maybe that's it. Is that my fault? I don't take it personally, but I will point it out because I don't hold myself according to the devil's yardstick, because it's an endless stream of fiery rings that you're never done jumping through. And I'm not jumping for them. I'm jumping for freedom. I jump for the truth. I jump up and speak the truth to hold the peace if I can. Do I give mountains of information to a platform that throws me no crumbs at all? Instead, minimizes the efforts? Perhaps, but I will never consider others in charge of my essence. If I volunteer to give something away and only a tiny fraction are allowed to receive it, I'm still giving something away. I chose to do that. I choose to share. I mean, I'm lucky to be able to have enough flow to survive, and so I can work on this. I choose to give. I remind all the people that are spoiled in the same way that you can give like this. The Matrix only gives false hope and then sucks us all dry. If you are willing to be a slave, here's some breadcrumbs. Here's a little tiny, teeny piece of cheese. Now get back in the treadmill. Get back in the loose treadmill. The founders did not intend for you to be a humanoid slave. They wanted to create the space for us to regain sovereignty, true self-sufficiency. Like, it turns out, I discovered that, wow, man, they don't want me to speak so much, man. No, the founders did not intend for you to be a humanoid slave. They wanted you to take care of yourself, to have the ability, because you see, they'd already pulled these scams for hundreds of years before. The tenant, the farmers, the peasant tenant farmership and all that. They've been pulling these scams for hundreds of years before USA, my guess. I'm pretty somewhat sure that what we call the Dark Ages was just the beginning of these fallen beings' control over the world. They were, and it's still the Dark Ages for that reason, in many regards, especially psychologically. They were the founding fathers were deists, and the Iroquois chiefs, of course, who gave us the concept of president, The Declaration of Independence and the preamble of the Constitution were, like all ancient traditional people, animist, which means that they felt that there was a living Christ or essence or divinity within all beings. Everything, even the dead stuff, the trees, including ghosts, everything. They were more real about spirit. Speaking of that, I'm getting a response from one of the few species beside the cockroach that made it. The coyote, cockroach, and this prehistoric turkey family over here. They made it for millions of years. That's why I feature them on this channel, because they have to symbolize longevity beyond luciferic forces of inversion and self-destruction. But you see, the founding fathers had a much more similar to a Gnostic view of the Holy Ghost. You know, that she gave us life, or it gave us life, or he or it. They might have even been so rationalistic they called it an it, and that it left it up to us, to gave us free will. So it was really this meeting the Iroquois chiefs and the founding fathers, writing these documents, was all inspired by Christ Sophia's original experiment. In my opinion, it was to codify the amazing idea that these spirit essences or fragments of souls, or whatever you want to call them, could get this holographic experience, this simulacrum of life. But the founding fathers, they felt and knew everything, or the Iroquois, they felt and knew everything as a spirit and as alive. The wealthy white dudes who created the original USA were deists. They believed in God, but in radical opposition to the fake crowns of England or Angleland, the L, and their genocidal theocratic mind cages, endless wars. They rebelled. They said, no, if we can take over these Native American tribes and their lands, then we'll make it peaceful. And Thomas Jefferson had slaves, and he preached against slavery. Then he reproduced with some of his slaves. So there's a bunch of known and rich people named Jefferson, hundreds of them out there. And, they felt that God created this entire place, then gave us free will, full reign or control. That we were made in the image of the Most High and then given control over this earth, right? That's what they believe. And that God was totally hands off. That meant secretly, as Freemasons, as wealthy white dudes that were somewhat brilliant aristocrat regents of their own creation, they felt all of religious tyranny was wrong and evil. So they attempted to establish freedom of religion, thought, freedom of speech, and freedom of press, and codify the original experiment, the original plan of Christ Sophia into law. This is why many feel that the United States is a divine being, not because it was made the same year as the Illuminati and it's really the devil. They tried to give legality to the real truth about humans' originality. Humans originally, the original truth. This attempt to give the place back to the original divine plan was the most threatening thing ever to the archons, to the luciferic, to the black sun, the black cube, the technocracy, who thought this was their loose-centric suckfest. They fully feel that this whole entire place we call Earth is for them to suck the energy down and destroy everything and control it and recycle it and recycle our souls and all the carbon material ad nauseum, endless war, endless burning of plastic and petroleum till we've all been burned out ad nauseum. And so the powers of darkness, lies, and deceit circled their wealthy wagons, as David Icke says, around our great experiment called the USA, and bribed and terrified their way into, already in the 1800s, I believe it was the year 1870 roughly, they had already turned it into a corporation called the US. So then gradually, like the frog in the water and the pot analogy, our founder's vision of codified, protected human freedoms, peace, and choice was replaced with the forced, compulsory worker elementary schools and financial slavery system, just like the real original creator, just like the real original experiment, whether it was holographic or actually 3D and holographic, and the stargates were open and we could leave at will, come and go as we pleased, and this was just a learning school where we could remember all our lessons, and Christ Sophia gave us that ability to this closed, to this place where you have to pay to live in a place you were born. Financial slavery system. Well, guess what, folks? God doesn't believe in God. Jews, Christians, and Muslims, and later Catholics fully obeyed, upheld, and killed all of the free indigenous first peoples on their witch hunts with the Crusades, from the Cathar villages of southern France to all the missions of California coast. They genocided all the peoples who wouldn't convert to Catholicism or run casinos. Soon, everywhere, money became the accepted god that millions were forced, with the exception of the Crows and the Hopis. There's been several that kept their traditional lands, as I say, but not many. All the others were either run on the Trail of Tears or killed in the case of these conquistadores here. Soon everywhere, money became the accepted god that millions were forced to worship, especially in this region here in the coast of California, or feed through many violent kinds of conversion. And now, President DJT has made an executive order that said everyone who doesn't play this game is a criminal and he needs to be locked up in a FEMA camp. Yes, Joshua, this entire place is a cannibal corpse, like that crazy death metal band is called, which I never listened to. I wonder if it's any good. Ouroboros, eating itself, endlessly recycling energy through killing and eating, and many animals, including humans, must consume other animals, or at least their placenta, like eggs, and to exist, or to really to live at all without being insane, like a vegan in a flesh suit. Yes, that is evil. No getting around it. I mean, the fact that we have to consume cholesterol to have healthy brains, it fucking sucks. Literally, it sucks a chicken or something else's eggs. But, humans have bred chickens for hundreds of years to make those eggs get that big, in my opinion, because I've seen the quail eggs is only that big, like 1 gram of protein. So, but that doesn't excuse it. But these Anunnaki came down and told us how to steal the milk from animals and to eat these eggs after they had made us, demanded that our brains needed the nutrients. Yes, that is evil, but the beauty that kills, as John Lash calls her, or that she was engineered to be in the form of these flesh suits, that the Christ Sophia within us was that we became the beauty that has to kill or steal to eat. That's engineered to need to consume flesh in us, was and is good. Christ Sophia is just as the founding fathers conceived of her. She, before the Anunnaki, before the Matrix, before the prison got here, whoever and whatever essences were in some kind of similar suits as these, that were far more psychic, could probably fly, levitate, like I say, go in and out of stargates, it will. She did establish us here and then give us rulership over ourselves, but not in this harmful Ouroboros prison planet shit. Not in this loosh farm. The imperial control over the entire Earth. Well, that could only work if the rulers had true oneness, like the founding fathers supposedly. Maybe Benjamin Franklin was a genius double agent. I mean, he was in the club, the big club, as George Carlin called it. You know, he had a favorite child hooker in France, yet he created the library system, which was such a brilliant stroke of wisdom, the first magazine. So goys, or I don't think he even thought of us as that, but, you know, so that normal folk could educate themselves. Did he think the poor were cattle? Doubtful. Why? Because he was somewhat oneness aware, as he had respect for the common man. By creating the library system, it proves that. Yet, from the insertion of selenite crystals in the earth to all the archonic deception strategies, the machinery put inside Saturn, that hexagram or cube in there, to all the machinery in the moon, to the jacking up of rents every year. A man over here who works at the Go outlet who plays classical fiddle told me that his rent goes up $100 every year. Endless wars, and later technocracy and transhumanism pushing the forced singularity with the terrors of their fear-based international humans 2.0 experiment, getting probably over half the world to comply. Wow. How many were maimed, turned into an electric puddle of mess, like, because it destroyed their nervous system, twitching. How many people have you seen just in a twitching puddle mess? Or and on disability now for that, or killed by this experiment, as if you didn't, you weren't willing to become a robot, you'd be fired. Remember that? Remember how many people said that? I suppose we'll never get the real figure, just like nobody will ever know how many people watch my YouTube videos when they delete the numbers sometimes. And I mean, we fight not against flesh and blood for the most part. Remember, in this war, this international, the end of this million-year war we've been in, but we fight against a junior god who can create self-replicating nanotech colony injections for the singularity, who's willing to invest in the million, get human, some kind of possessed humans to do this. And of course it took, you know, the humans 1.5 plan of forcing 99.9 people evolved to get a microwave cell phone for 15 years to, you know, and the hydrogenated oils they released in the 1950s to achieve this goals. It took a gradual, again, frog in the pot, gradually making us idiot cyborg slaves, even more, gradually. From the brotherhood of the snakes in Atlantis to the Anunnaki setting up the Babylonian money magic matrix system, to the Council of Nicaea, to the concept of transhumanism singularity, the false self gods have been hard at work and doing a brilliant evil genius job of lots of blood drinking behind the scenes, lots of sacrifice, adrenochrome, lots of ritual abuse, tons of wars, tons of, you know, psychological trauma-based mind control, tons of different shades of gray, of violent filth of the mind. And now the Lockheed Martin Operation Space Fence, which on their own YouTube website they claim has been, a robot voice says has been operational since 2022, and the intentional pumping and spraying of millions of tons of toxic inorganic aluminum dust clouds mixed with other toxic heavy metals, barium, strontium, lithium, aluminum, and nucleated ice to cool it down 20 degrees roughly often. And all these toxic metals and even maybe self-replicating nanotech colonies, my guess, nearly everywhere on occasion. Meanwhile, heavily enforced financial slavery, growing rapidly worse everywhere, especially every beautiful place, but almost everywhere on the whole planet, almost. And hands-on tyrant fake gods like Lucifer and the L and vampire politicians and royals keep insisting and demanding every ounce of your energy is going for God the drain. Your mort gauge must steal all of your moments. Every moment of your life, get back to work. Get back to work. You're here for the rent. Don't forget it. The vampire god must eat all of our energies. It's very, very, very important. After all, this is his plain net, right, Joshua? And he made this body balderdash. He dumbed down this body like a fucking evil genius, if there is such a thing, because it is pathetic in the realm of heart. No, he dumbed it down, terrified the majority into perpetual slavery, memory wipe, endless abuse, endless torture and stealing of their energy, brought in the moon, literally the fake ass moon, and turned this sacred divinity that I'm sitting on right now into a bleak, ugly, soulless NPC run loose farm. If you don't have the white privilege to be in a camp in the forest, it took 1,000,000 years. But damn, the evil filth has been diligent. What I say, their greatest trick is not to pretend like they don't exist anymore. It's that they never give up. They never give up. So we must never give up ourselves. If you want to do something to help the world, never give up in respectfully doing your part. We must never give up in true perception, actual clarity as much as possible about both the good and the evil within and without and around. For like our original creator, Christ Sophia, our nation's founders were both courageous, divinely inspired, hubristic, too cocksure, and inherently naive. And we, as their offspring, of course, have inherited these horrific and wonderful attributes, thinking that they could do it all themselves. The lovely DIY thing, and that's how the demiurge came to be, because Christ Sophia was imbued with this heavy dose of DIY and, being so sure she could do it all herself. Howdy Mikowski's idea of sanity is rebellion. Like he said, the most rebellious thing I could do is to be as sane as possible in this world. I agree with that. The problem is, literally, to believe is to literally be a lie. So if you still believe any of the filth the Matrix put in your head, it's your job to remove that, or if you're still a lie, then that could be harming you. To believe is to literally be a lie in view. Can you instead be a truth in view? We have often underestimated the evil within our massive heroism. Yet without pure psychological perception of the clear light of awareness, egos, mistakes, and space for archonic interference and hijacks set in quickly. They've got their players on all the etheric bases. They're all around us, all the moments of our existence here, waiting to cause a stupid ass shithole thing to occur to steal your energy again. The pure divinity in the earth, humans, and the honest and true perception of the extremely beautiful living goddess in all beings, this bountiful, abundant, luxurious coastal California nature scene behind me, for example, was terrified and programmed, trauma bonded, and not this lot. I'm lucky I found one of the last no man's land hidden lots that wasn't, but most of them are. That was terrified and programmed, trauma bonded, and injected over 1,000,000 years to be full of NPCs, pollution, and then have groups of anti-humans like the WEF boy spokesman Yuval Harari, who said something like, "There's an old-fashioned belief that humans have a soul or a spirit, but we can hack in and deprogram that idea and get it all out." So yeah, though they locked down the entire planet in 2020 with the help of the World Economic Forum and the Council on Foreign Relations, and their amazing organizational skills, and we will continue to see enforcing their will on everyone, and we will continue to see endless killing in Hamas as long as those evil groups still exist, or those responsible for the killing, and die as long as they still exist and die for their false gods. But the vast majority of this war to end all wars is very much, aside from weather warfare, direct energy weapons, and spreading and controlling us with seemingly highly contagious, deadly, incredibly infectious, mutated diseases like the ones I've dealt with for decades. This is mostly a psychological or mental and spiritual war. Have you ever grown a crop or food plant in the earth? I recently have been. I noticed that I didn't get all of my blue potatoes out of the earth when I harvested them in the spring, and I got a few. That last fake ass geoengineered rain has made a few of them grow back. What do you learn? What do you learn when you grow a crop? Have you ever grown cannabis or food? Have you ever grown food or cannabis or any other crop? What do you learn if you're successful when you grow? That this place that we're sitting on is a very abundant, naturally very abundant. You'll get a huge crop if you did a good job, right? This place could be turned back into like a Garden of Eden kind of thing, like a paradise garden, a walled garden, a paradise garden. It doesn't have to be a slavery planet. It's these parasites. They need the slavery is one of the greatest sources of loosh. People are stressed out all the time, and that generates it. So God, the faker, needs it, but the reality doesn't. So Animism, Deism are rich in meaning. These ancient philosophies are far more close to the original. Like I say again, the original experiment, and thus more real and rich and wealthy in meaning. The Borg is forced poverty, enslavement, impoverishment of everyone, forcibly. The Singularity forces everyone to be soulless that participates. Suffering others, suffering, it is true that it's impossible to have a healthy flesh suit and not cause others suffering, but you can greatly lessen that. Do you think Joshua is correct in saying it's all just a bloody hell? Well, is this a hell or a flesh-eating bloody divinity? The actuality, in saying it's all just a bloody hell, or can you see signs of the actuality of animism and deism? Because even though it's the first syllable is die-ism, like it was die-ism, it shows you an ancient view that's far more accurate before the hijack, before it turned into such a death hole. This really is a battle between the souls or essence fragments of the Almighty Christ in these flesh suits that still exist, whichever few and far between, are still here, and the forced one robot hell, the soulless Borg. Which side are you on?